Hello sneaker lovers, Shoe Dog Review here. Today we're going to look at the Off-White Jordan 1 in the UNC colourway. Now with the recent retail release, that means resell. Resell means there will be replicas trying to muddle their way in there and get bought from eBay or wherever. Now, historically it's been quite easy to distinguish between them visually, so let's just have a look at the key details that we're doing that. Okay, now this area here, we call this the ghost stitching. Quite typically this would be the wrong arrangement and there wouldn't be a space there. Now, if you look at a retail pair, you can see what I'm talking about. There's a very fine space there, and there's a staggered arrangement as it goes around the facing. Another detail that was quite commonly wrong would be the leather quality and the leather finish, the surface of it. If we look at this, you can see it's too soft, too flimsy, and the print resolution wouldn't be that great. If we look at this, you can see that first of all, the texture is much smoother. It's got a very fine, what we call follicle grain, and the printing obviously, it's Nike, so they're going to be very, very clean and clear. And on the back, there's a glossy shadow. On the back, there's a glossy shadow there, where you can see the reverse of this, the impact on the suede. Also the suede colour. Look at the back of that, and the quality. Oops, you can see there's a difference there. Look at an easy tell is the toe shape. See that? Look at that one. You can see this one is actually slightly wider around here, and this is much slimmer. And the edge of the leather there is very, very hairy, and it's not very clean, and there's an unevenness to the surface of the mesh there, the ripstop nylon. If you look at the laces, well, there's a significant difference in size. Bottom one's the retail. Significant difference in size there, in terms of the height and the thickness and the boldness. If you drag your fingers over the top of it, you can feel a slight difference. This has got a lovely, rich, slightly rubber touch to it, the transfer, whereas this doesn't have that. And look, the positioning from the tip is a little bit further away. If we look at the USA print location now, it's a very popular tell for everybody, is that all three letters should be touching. Now, with production, with retails, there's going to be a little bit of variation. Let's say there's a tolerance of a millimetre up and down and left and right, but in general, it locates itself like this. And there's a little bit of the U visible just beyond the stitching there. Microscopic though. And if we look at this version, you can see it's slightly higher, and also the print quality and the bleed is much, much more aggressive compared to the retail. So these have been easy details. These have been things that have made it easy to tell the difference between the replica and the retails. If you look at this version, it's ghost stitching again, same thing. Very wrong. The arrangement's wrong, and there's not a space there, and these are actually running parallel. Back at retail, not like this, which obviously is staggered, as we've seen already. Okay, so quite easy to tell the difference between the two. And actually, if you look here, this also shows up the positioning for the swoosh. If you look, the tip actually sits about 5 millimeters back from this edge. Whereas in the case of this one, it lines up, pretty much lines up with the edge of the facing. And it's curling down because the leather's too soft too. You know, letting down the shoe quite dramatically there. If we look at the heel texture and the heel height, you can see here that this replica, the heel height, the heel height is too high, this section here, which throws the whole upper off. The width of that is actually pretty much okay after that, it's just sitting too high in the sole. And the colour of this heel material is wrong, too green. When we look at this one, you see the texture is slightly off too. Right, if you look at the air positioning here, you can see it's slightly off, they're not located it correctly. Look at the other foot, compare it there, it's too low and too far back. It's sitting flush with the front of the suede, whereas this one actually is put in front of that significantly. So there's a lot of details there that have made it easy visually to distinguish between replica and retail. But with the retail release, of course, new batches have come out, and we've found a batch that's actually very one-to-one. Now, it's in this box, so let's have a take a look at it, right? First thing is, the box itself has come very clean, and the lid isn't detached. Usually the replicas, these have got broken open. Now this has come intact, so you can't tell from photos. Going inside the box, the polythene is not cloudy or foggy, and it's not the wrong packing like some earlier versions had totally wrong packing, and they have the light brown box. It's not. Look to the left here, you can see it's got the green label, exactly the same as retails. The print size and positioning is right. Inside the box we've got the laces rolled correctly. Typically replicas would come with the laces bunched like this, and in this case they came with an extra black pair, which is not correct. Taking a look at the shoe itself. Okay, if we look at the ghost stitching, you can see there's a space, and it's a staggered arrangement. That's much, much, much more like retail. The leather quality is much firmer, and the texture is a fine follicle emboss, same as the retails. So, Oh, the leather colour, let's have a look at that, and the thickness. Okay, 1.5, 1.6, 1.6, 1.6. Let's have a look at the retail, see what their thicknesses are. 1.6, 1.7, 1.6. So 1.6.7, this is 1.5.6, so we're talking 0.1 millimeters difference, which is negligible. And yes, the firmness of this is good. If you look inside, it's got the shine for the back of the wings logo, much cleaner resolution and much better quality suede on the back. Actually, the retails are slightly hairier, if I'm honest. However, that will fur up in time, I think. Give it time. These are obviously new out of the box. Look at the air logo positioning. Okay, they've lined that up perfectly on the sole. That's incredible. And the back height of this, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Texture and colour, pretty much the same. Very hard to distinguish between these two. If we look at the same foot and look at the toe shape, look at that. Let's put the lid there. Use that as a platform. Okay, if we look at that now, you can see the positioning here, the slimness of the toe, the curve, feeling, the character. The shape around here, really captured the spirit of the shoe. And so we were talking about the sole of the shoe, you know, S-O-U-L, that sole, not the sole, the bottom. The sole of the shoe, the character, the feeling. A lot of the reps just don't, they may get details right, but they don't capture that character. But these certainly have got that. So walking around, you know, you're going to feel like they're genuine. And then, you know, someone's going to call you out on something, and boom, paperwork doesn't check out or something. You know, so be careful when you're buying resale. Be very careful. You need to look beyond the shoe now, because visually these are pretty much one-to-one. Look at the stitching, the consistency, the clarity, the cleanliness. You know, we compare that to this. Now it dips into the leather because it's soft, and the neatness around the front there. Lace. Wow. Size and location of that, pretty much the same. Very, very close. If I rub my finger over it, they feel very close too. It's just slightly bigger actually, the retail. Very, very slightly bigger if you look. If you look carefully. Flip that up. You can see just a slight difference there. The lace quality though, the thickness, exactly the same. Don't think the previous replicas weren't getting right. Look at the toe depth. Get those lined up. See the toe depth there? Very, very, very close indeed. I would have, they probably used the same last shape, the shoe last shape, so that everything's, you know, exactly one-to-one. Amazing. Thicknesses of here. Wow. You could probably pair these up, almost. You know, where left and right, and almost nobody would know the difference. Amazing. If you take a look at the ghost stitching here, you can see they're almost identical. Impossible to tell the difference. And the size of the wings logo. The positioning of the air. Perfect. Look at that. They've lined it up with the same grooves on the sole and the same spacing from the bottom line of the what we call the parting line. I'll just put that there so you know, I can point out where the parting line is. Parting line is this dividing point here, right, between the two colours. It's a thing in the mould where it actually helps separate the two colours. And quite, you know, traditionally, a lot of the replicas had the air too low in that respect. And although they place it correctly with the sole, their upper was falling too far forward. So that was actually spoiling it. And you can see just how far forwards that is compared to that. So if you relate those two, it should be there. Which is probably why it looks like it's in the wrong place. It's not the sole positioning as much as it's the upper, but yes, it is too low. Finish of the leather, very, very close. That is incredibly close. The heel texture. I mean, if you go into the history of this is actually a heel stiffener itself. They cut away with the original Jordan 1, when Abloh did his work on this, it was about deconstruction. So he cut away and exposed what was the heel stiffener on the back and had that painted. So the texture you see is actually the heel stiffener material itself. And it has fine threads running through it, crossways and vertically. And indeed, this has the same texture. If we look back at earlier batches, you see that actually it was more like an embossed texture. It wasn't quite right. And in some cases, it would also be about the colour, wouldn't get the colour right. Texture's almost right on that, but the colour lets it down. If you look at the back, you can see the proportion, the feeling, the ghost stitching. Very, 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 very close. Very hard to tell the difference between those two. If we have a look at the footbed, look at the footbed and see how that compares to retail. Right, well, okay, maybe a slight difference in colour, but the definition, wow, definition's the same. Feels the same. The material feels the same too. Let's have a look at the depth. Just under 5mm there. And go back to that one. Just under 5mm there. So thickness the same. The back, the colour, same. Even the way they've skied that looks the same. Wow. Very, very close. Certainly very, very close. The whole arrangement, I would say that actually the holes are slightly bigger. Very, very slightly bigger. But you can see that curve. The characteristic, the feel. You know, something the other replicas were missing. Really, really, really caught that excellently. That's going to be very, very hard to tell the difference. If we look at the tongue logo, you can see very, very slight difference in colour. It's probably one of the remaining details that really stand out of how you distinguish between them. If you look at the stitching, the depth of the stitching from here to here, that's very, very close. If you look at a typical replica from before, you can see it's much wider there. Much wider. If you compare to this replica, you can see that the Nike Air is much, much more fluorescent, and the edge is much more aggressive there. So, if you're buying resell online, I do recommend that you get a second and third opinion, you check the paperwork, you go beyond the shoe. Don't just go on the visual of the shoe. If you just use the visuals from photography when they're selling you the pair, you know, you could get caught out with this. So consult other people, go onto Rep Sneaker, do a legit check there. Those guys help people out with buying resell to you know, establish if the shoe is legit or not. Okay, I hope that's helped you guys. Avoid that eBay dismay, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.